Out on Scotland's rugged west coast, there's an island where cliffs tumble into the sea, castles seem to rise out of the mist, and the landscape feels otherworldly. This is the Isle of Skye, one of those places that travelers like me dream about exploring. With only one day here, we wanted to pack in as much as possible, and I promise, this trip builds to some of the most jaw-dropping views in Scotland. Let's dive in. We started by driving over to the Isle of Skye, crossing the bridge, and then making our way towards Portree. Along the way, you'll see amazing mountains and even waterfalls welcoming you to this beautiful area. We headed into Portree where we checked into our hostel, which was the only available accommodation on the entire island the day that we were there. Over the last decade, Skye has become a very popular place to visit, so it is always busy and you definitely need to book in advance. And then we walked around the town a little bit, saw the colorful houses along the water, and then headed in for the night. The next morning, we said goodbye to our hostel bright and early, and we made our way to a hike I've been wanting to do for a long time. Like everything in Skye, hikes like this are incredibly popular, and the earlier you get there, the better, especially when you're trying to find parking. On the way up to Storr, we saw this waterfall, so we decided to hop out for a second and get a couple pictures. This is known as Bridesvale Falls, and it's right along the side of the road with a pullout for maybe 3 cars. It's definitely one of the easiest waterfalls to get to in all of Skye, and it's about 20 feet tall with some beautiful views surrounding it. Here's the parking lot for Storr at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. Here's the pavement area. It is £5 for 6 hours, £7 for 12 hours right now. So this hike is something that's been on my bucket list since before I was even doing YouTube. I still remember seeing the picture from behind the rock that's known as the Old Man of Storr, looking back over this beautiful landscape, and I've wanted to see that ever since I saw that picture. So to be able to actually do it today, even in suboptimal weather, I am so excited. Just praying that the visibility keeps as we make our way up there. You see the rock right there, just shining in the light. While this trail is more moderate at 3.5 miles round trip and 1,000 feet of elevation gain, it definitely goes straight up most of the beginning, which can be difficult, so take your time.
Look at this beautiful sunshine for a moment here. Hopefully it lasts.
Weather didn't last long. It is pouring on us now. They say the weather's good every 10 minutes in Skye. We'll test that right now. We are earning this one today. That was about 10 minutes of intense downpour. I'm soaked luckily about this 99-cent poncho, but we are almost the top. The sun is starting to come out. I'm so excited. I'm getting very hopeful right now. I can't stop smiling. Look at the weather. I think it's gonna work out for us. As you approach the last set of stairs that takes you to the base at the bottom of the rock, it's a good time to tell you that this is known as the Old Man of Storr, and it's a giant pinnacle rock that rises 160 feet or about 50 meters from the ridge. Be prepared for a lot of uphill on this one. There's Pops all the way down there. He told me he was dealing with a leg issue, so to go up myself and he'll see how much he can get to, but at least he got to that part. So there's the old man right there, but the iconic view is from over there at that rock. So I'm gonna head up there first and then I'll loop around the backside of this. Once you make it up past the Old Man, you'll go to another rock formation which is known as the Needle, and you'll hike around that, and it definitely looks like a needle that's pointing up towards the sky. From here the trail flattens out and the views out over the water and to the surrounding mountains become incredible. This is especially true with the green hills and the jagged rocks sticking out of them. And the last half mile up to the ridgeline in the famous photo spot is relatively flat. I don't even know what to say about this one. This is one of the rare times that I'm speechless. It is more beautiful than I could have imagined. I'm just gonna sit here and relax and take it all in. Bucket list, check. There's Pops rounding the bend down there. Right at the base. It was at this moment that Pops called me and said that he couldn't continue. And I told him that I fully respected his decision, but if there was any way he could make it up here, he should definitely try. Check out Pops, he's beast moding the trail right there. He's almost made it. You got this, Pops! Woo! Pops finishing the last of the trail. Pops, look at you. You made it to the top. Well done.
I have to admit, I'm proud of myself. I didn't think I could do this, but my gosh, this payoff view is amazing. You know, my only complaint is I wish we'd get some decent weather here in Scotland. Look at this. I mean, my gosh, how are you supposed to enjoy a country like this when you have weather like that? You know?
I know, there's at least 3 clouds out there.
My gosh, what the heck? No, amazing.
I'm so proud of you, Pops.
I'm proud of myself.
You crushed that hike. And this is like, honestly, like I said, this is probably one of my best hikes I've ever done in my life. I mean, look at that view.
That is amazing.
We spent about 45 minutes hanging up there. I could have probably spent all day, but we are starting the hike back down to explore more Skye. There's a little loop you can do around the Old Man, so I came up this way. I'm gonna go back that way. Pops is just chugging down the mountain. When you round the hill, you can actually take a small trail up to the base of the Old Man of Storr if you're interested in getting closer. It is steep though. There you go, we have made it to the base of the Old Man. It's definitely gonna be steep getting back down from this. Alright, the wind is likely to blow me away up here, so I'm putting this away. I'll see you at the bottom. After completing this hike, I can easily say that it lives up to my expectations. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and now I see why it's one of the most photographed places in all of Scotland. The views out here are some of the most beautiful I've ever seen and something I will never forget. Also, it couldn't have worked better for us. As we're coming down, the rain is starting, but we had about an hour and a half up there with no rain and even some sun. Incredible.
It's even difficult to get out of here because it's only one way out, and as soon as somebody puts their lights on, everybody just stops to wait for a parking spot. So give yourself patience when you're doing this one.
When we made it out of the parking lot, we realized why we start early and why you should start early too. There was hundreds of people looking for a parking spot. This is the Rigg Viewpoint pull-off right here, and it has some great views, including the Old Man of Storr way out there. This is a quick, accessible stop with no hiking required and amazing views over towards the mainland and back across the island. From here you can see the rugged coastline, and with a zoom lens you can even see the Old Man of Storr way out in the distance. Our next stop brought us about 7 minutes down the road to another pullout for Lealt Falls. Again, this is easily accessible from the parking area with a 2-minute walk out to an elevated boardwalk and observation deck. From here you can see the falls, which are actually split into 2 different waterfalls. Wow, there's one waterfall right there, and then there's a second waterfall right there. That's awesome. I love when I do no research beforehand and I'm actually surprised by these views. I had no idea that there was a split waterfall here that looked like this. I have no idea where everybody's at. That's a full car park and there's only one other person looking at the double waterfall with me. That was pretty impressive. I did not expect that at all. As you can probably tell, Pops didn't get out at a lot of these spots as he was nursing a leg injury and had pushed himself pretty hard at the Old Man of Storr. So he just hung out in the car for a lot of these viewpoints. The next spot brought us to Kilt Rock waterfall, which is a waterfall that flows directly into the ocean below it. I was hoping to take some drone shots here so you could see it better, but unfortunately it wasn't allowed during this time of the year. There is a cool rock formation out in the distance though. That one out there is known as Kilt Rock. It's supposed to be a giant wearing a kilt, do you see it? From here it was time for lunch, so we drove about 7 minutes to the Hungry Gull, which had come highly recommended. We knew it was going to be good when we got there and there was a full parking lot and a line out the door just to get a spot to eat. Luckily, it wasn't long before we were seated and we had some great food sitting in front of us with pastries waiting for dessert. I ended up going with the broccoli and wild garlic toast, and Pops went with the venison hash and a side of haggis sausage roll. And then of course we picked desserts to go with it after all our hiking. I appreciate them giving me a fork, like I'm going to use a fork to eat this monstrous cookie, but definitely not. There's about 15 people in line now for that spot. It is definitely a great place to get lunch. They make some awesome food there. Plus this coffee is one of the best I've had on the entire Scotland road trip. Let's explore more Skye. We were hoping to drive around the entire island of Skye, but we couldn't find any place to stay for our second night here. So knowing that we were going to have a long drive later, we cut it a little bit short and we headed in through the Quiraing. This is another one of the areas that's supposedly beautiful to hike in, and I can tell that it is, but we just drove right through the center of the rocks on a crazy 1-lane road where you have to pull out for people as you're making your way up over the mountains. If you do this drive like us, be sure to know what the limit is for driving on this road, as I had imagined that some of the bigger cars and RVs definitely would not be able to fit. It actually reminded me a lot of the drive that we did at the end of the North Coast 500, as you climbed over the mountains, had to turn out for people, but got amazing views. Plus, there were sheep all over the roads. As we made it across the island, we arrived at the small coastal town of Gill. At least, that's how I hope you pronounce it. We didn't stop at all in the town, we just made it around the bay and then took the turnoff that drives along another one-lane road out to a popular hike known as Fairy Glen. This hike is a little bit less than a mile round trip and it's called the Fairy Glen. It's supposed to have lots of cool formations and things, so we'll see what there is to do here. This is a great hike for the whole family as it's relatively flat until you get to the end and you can climb up to the top of the castle if you want. It's basically a landscape full of quirky grass hills and cone-shaped mountains, plus little ponds right along the side of the trail. Oh, and note that the castle at the end isn't a castle, it's just a rock formation that people call a castle. Known as Castle Ewan, you can see why it's called that, as it's like a rocky outcrop that looks like the ruin of a fortress. When you make it to the end, you can actually walk a small path up to the top of the castle if you'd like, but when you get to the top, you do have to do some rock scrambling to make it all the way up. Made it to the top of this mound called Castle Ewan. This is awesome up here. Look at those views. You do kind of have to shimmy through this narrow rock to get up here though. I'm just blown away by the beauty of Skye. It's unlike anything we've seen in Scotland. It's just so much beauty. Look at the waterfall in the distance. Everywhere you look, it's green and lush and just views stretching out far into the horizon. After spending some time up at the top, I made my way back down and then I took a different loop to head back to the car. There's basically no signs out here, so it gives it a bit of a hidden, secretive feel. There was even sheep grazing through the area, and as the rain started to roll in, it felt even more mysterious. That was a great hike. I loved it. Other than getting to the top of that, it's very family friendly. It's fun to have kind of the fairy element of the little rock circles that are for the fairies. Plus just the way that the mountains and everything look, it definitely feels kind of like a fairy tale out here. I would say that it's definitely a great hike for families. Now we're gonna head on to a castle before one more hike in Skye after that. Almost back though, it was just right at the end that it started raining. But it is coming down, it's windy and wet. I ran the last quarter of a mile to the car to get out of the rain, and then we headed down the one-lane road and back towards the bay. I don't know if you can see, but that pass where those cars are at right here, that's where we came over from the other side of Skye. We drove about 45 minutes to Dunvegan Castle, which is our next stop. This castle is a small fee to visit, but it's well worth it as it's the ancestral home of Clan MacLeod, one of the most powerful Highland clans. It's also Scotland's oldest continuously lived-in castle for over 800 years. The tour is self-guided and you can explore the castle however you please. When we were there, it was pretty busy as they had just dropped off a couple tour groups, but it was still easy to get around and to see all of the main attractions. By far, the thing you have to see when you're there is the fairy flag. This is known as the fairy flag. It's the most treasured possession of the clan, and it's from the 4th century. There are many different stories about the fairy flag and how it came to be. I think the best though is that it was given to the clan by fairies, and that the flag has magical powers that can only be used 3 times. Over the course of history, supposedly it's been used twice, and so there's only one use left. It's definitely a symbol of pride for the clan and a cool piece to see while you're in Scotland. This is the dungeon that we're in, and there's another level to the dungeon down there as well. Since it has been continuously lived in, not all of the rooms are open to the public, but there is a lot to see and it is a very cool tour. Another highlight was the Great Sword of Dunvegan, which you can see at the end of the tour. Kind of creepy, I wasn't expecting her to be there. When you leave the castle, you can walk outside and look around the grounds and out over the water in front of you. It is a beautiful property with expansive views.
The highlight for me was that sword. That's from like the 15th century, I think. It kind of felt like the sword, you know, made by the elves.
The great sword of Dunvegan.
Yeah, like from the Lord of the Rings or something. Glamdring or one of those other kind of swords. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was a really, really cool stop. Definitely enjoyed that one. And we have one more thing left to do, which is a hike in the southern portion of Skye. I tried to get a second night at any hotel in all of Skye and I couldn't get one. So we're actually doing that, and then we have to leave the island to get our hotel. To get to our last hike, it was about an hour drive from the castle through a remote part of Skye with beautiful highland views and views out over the water. Honestly, any time you spend driving in Scotland is worth it, and I never was upset about these views. And then to make it down to the final hike, you have to drive a one-lane road with lots of pullouts to get to the parking area. This is our last hike of the day, the fairy pools. You can see them out in the distance climbing up the mountains. Note that every place you go to has a parking fee. Usually it's around £3. This one was £8. A couple of them have been £5, but I probably spent about 30 or 40 pounds in parking today. On the way over here, Pops and I were having a competition talking about whether we think Skye or Glencoe is better. I think that I like Skye the best now. Pops, you're on
I would love to spend a ton more time just walking around those hills in Glencoe.
I don't know if Pops can still say that after seeing these hills right here, but let us know if you're Team Skye or Team Glencoe in the comments. I mean, you can make an argument for both. They're incredible. The fairy pools are definitely one of the most visited hikes in Skye, and they're a series of crystal clear waterfalls and pools that go along a small river. Here's the first of the little pools and waterfalls. It's a beautiful start to the trail. To go all the way to the end of this hike, it's about 3 miles round trip, but you can actually stop whenever you want and turn around. I would recommend going at least a mile to a mile and a quarter though, as that's some of the best waterfalls.
Oh my gosh! I see my first fairy! There he is, he's holding a camera! That's probably the first person who's ever done that.
I was wondering when that joke was gonna come. This trail is a little surprising as it feels like it's gonna be a lot flatter than it is, but you gotta go down a lot in the beginning, back up at the end, and then basically the entire way is kind of like a slow uphill. The small river sits at the foot of the Black Coolin Mountains, giving the spot a dramatic backdrop. The water is supposedly so clear on sunny days that you can see right to the bottom with stones glowing a turquoise and green, which is why it's named the fairy pools. This kind of reminds me of a hike in California called the Seven Teacups, and it's got these little cascades that go into different pools. I could totally see why this is called the fairy pools, and look at how clear the water is right there as well. I didn't know what to expect when I started this hike, but halfway in we had already passed about 15 small waterfalls. And it's one of those places where you don't want to turn around as you really want to see what's past the next bend. It's crazy how this one area was carved out and not any of the surrounding landscape. It's almost like a little mini Grand Canyon right here with the way it's been carved. Emphasis on the mini as well, of course.
This is really, really beautiful. It's really fun. We've got the most gorgeous day. You got these incredible mountains. You've got all these little pools. I would like you to note in the comments if you see a fairy. Okay, what was the timestamp on Josh's video when you saw a fairy? Because we haven't seen any, but I would believe they could be here of all places. I believe they're here. This is definitely my favorite view right here with the waterfall and the massive mountains behind it. It's fascinating how many of these small streams lead down into this main one as well. Once you get to about 1.25 miles, most everybody has dropped off. I decided that I wanted to go all the way to the end of the trail though, just to make sure there wasn't anything I was missing. And then when you get towards the end, you'll see an iconic photo from the fairy pools of Skye, with the tiny little waterfalls and multiple streams and the big mountain behind it. That waterfall is the official end of the trail. I don't know, I think it kind of goes out like a whimper a little bit. I think the best part is about 3/4 of the way up. It's a cool waterfall to end on, but a lot of the other ones are better. Guys, I had no idea if Skye would live up to my expectations. I've had such high expectations for this place for so long, but not only did it live up to it, it exceeded it. This place is incredible. By far one of the most beautiful places I've visited in my entire life. And there's so much that we didn't do, so I will for sure be back.
And with that, we had to start our long drive to our hotel, and so that's the end of our one day in Skye. Hopefully you enjoyed coming along on this adventure with us, and be sure to watch for the full 10-day Scotland road trip, which will hopefully be out soon. I'll link to it in the description when it's live, and we'll see you on the next one.